It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Wednesday, June 4th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that loves that number four when it comes to the Noah Cates contract, 4 years, $4 million per.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter, and of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Noah Cates did, in fact, sign a contract extension with the Flyers. We are also going to get into some free agents, somewhat college related, that other teams let go. We talked about the guys that the Flyers let go on yesterday's show. So we're going to see if there's any poaching that we could do from the other teams and undrafted guys that are still out there, and answer your mailbag questions, which we have a lot to talk about related to our conversation on yesterday's show with JD from Locked On Sharks about potentially trading up in the draft and so much more. Love this Noah Cates contract, Russ. I think, the value for it is spot on. I think that's exactly what he's worth. Especially in the long run, when you look at, the center role and the myriad of ways the Flyers are going to try and solve that 1C problem over the next year or two, having Sean Couturier for a number of years in the future. And Noah Cates, as we've said, is a 3C, and $4 million for a 3C, I think is pretty spot on.
It is. I wouldn't pay him a dime more because I do want to see, is there more offense there? And I think that's fine.
Yeah.
But everything else he does is really good. And he's shown nice progression, and he's a good team guy and a good leader. And so, yeah, I've liked him since the USHL. So I think this is good. I think we did think that this contract had to be figured out first before you even worry about everybody else. Now, the big question, of course, is Cam York, but at least this is off their plate. And I think that was smart.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that, especially the 4 years, I think is a good time span, and it allows him to maybe sign another deal after that would be for a little bit more money, for a little bit longer term to round out his career, but also provides the Flyers with some stability and knowledge of how much they're going to pay him over the next 4 years. I think the timing is good relative to the other contracts in the organization right now on the forward side of things. So, man, Danny Briere is getting better and better at doing this. I think as his couple of years have progressed as GM, I think there were some rocky ones at the beginning, for sure, that maybe a little bit too much money for a little bit too long. But the last couple of deals especially have just been so on target.
Right. And there's no move clause. That's a big deal because that's something that Chuck Fletcher was handing out like candy, and it got handed out like candy with other GMs too. I feel like now that's now come back to reality, and that's good.
Yeah, and I think if you want to use him as a trade piece in some bigger deal to get like a first pairing defenseman down the road or something, I think it's doable. Would I want to trade Cates? No, but in the right circumstances, maybe. And you have to have that option available to you.
You do. When you do the other things and all of a sudden it's a list and everything, you saw how the Flyers couldn't trade Mitch Marner. It becomes a hindrance. And then, like, if Mitch Marner is no longer a Leaf after the season, which is expected,
right?
They didn't get anything for him. No assets. He just left. So you don't want to get locked into that.
Yep, exactly. So I think, Danny Briere is really getting a handle on things. Now, knock on wood, that continues as we move forward here. Turning our attention to some free agents on August 15th. And, in terms of the date that just passed, now this creates some additional free agents, just like we talked about with Carter Sotheran not being signed by the Flyers on yesterday's show. And I think obviously the biggest fish, maybe not obviously, to me, obviously the biggest fish in this conversation is Isaac Howard. Mm-hmm. He was drafted 31st overall in 2022 by the Tampa Bay Lightning, but has made it clear that he is not signing there, and Tampa has kind of moved on in terms of expecting that. You know, there's one more year where there would have to be a transfer of assets if someone else were to sign him, because he does have one more year left of college ability at Michigan State, and he has said that he is returning next year. But he could change his mind, and then they would have to do that compensatory pick transaction.
Right. I mean, he has to say that he's going back no matter what, because he's not going to Tampa. So no matter what, your path is, the guaranteed path is free agency next August 15th. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you talk about that, of course, every team's fans are like, yeah, trade for him if he wants to come here. And it's like, yeah, okay. And, you know, and the thing is, he might say, you know, the team might say, hey, if we trade your rights to whatever, are you open to going there? And he might say, I'm open to going there, but I'm not going to sign. And if that's the case, you don't do it. But like, look, I mean, I just go back to Calgary. They had Adam Fox's rights. And I was being told that there was a chance he could go there. Then you find out after, well, he was pretty set on the Rangers because, you know, so he must have just been willing to listen, like a lot of players are with Carolina, and they listen to the spiel. And then sometimes they don't go because it's not a big city. Like, that's just the way it's been at times for Carolina trying to get players. And so, yeah, Philly doesn't have that problem, but Philly just might have the problem that he doesn't want to play there.
Right. And when you look at where he's at, he won the Hobey Baker, 52 points in 37 games this past year, including 26 goals and 26 assists. Like, that's very balanced offensive output there. High potential to be a top 6 player. He's got an extremely well-rounded game. He's a creative forward. Like, there is so much upside to this kid.
Yeah, there's a lot of upside. And the thing is, like, if you're a team, if you're trading for his rights and then sign him, his expectation is going to be to play right away. And I don't know if he's there yet. And so that's the other complicating part of this. So you have to decide, is he ready to play right away? Like, I think the Flyers could find a spot, but I don't know if they have the right spot for him either right now. So that's the other part of this.
Right. And I think it's a good question to ask, because I think that there is a roster spot for him for sure, but a playing spot is a different animal. And I think that the right opportunity for him, like, I don't want, and again, different ages. Obviously, Howard is much, much older than Jet Luchenko. But in terms of the readiness issue to be an NHL player, like, I don't want to burn him out quickly and get frustrated with failure. But you also don't want to overpromise that he can actually play. We could say, oh, we'll give you a legitimate shot. Like, you'll have 10 games to prove yourself and earn the spot at the NHL level, but you have to be prepared to go down to the AHL level and hone your game if that's what's best.
Right.
And I think that's
20,
yeah,
he's not even 22 till next March. So it's like, you know, I've seen him play a bunch of times. Like, the guy's really fast. He's talented. He's got a lot of offense. He could turn a lot of things, mundane plays into offense. So he's an exciting guy to watch. But just like I just wrote about it on Sportsology, I just wrote about Easton Cowan. Hey, this guy was, you know, tremendous in the Memorial Cup. He did everything he said he was going to do. But in the end, would I play him with the Leafs next year? No, I wouldn't even give him a path. Like, it's just, sometimes you have to wait for some of these guys, especially these 5'11" guys that have a lot of talent. Now, Howard has had a lot of time to work out, so he's going to be much physically stronger, and he's 2 years older. So I'm not using them as an example for each other. I'm just using it as an example for, should he go right from college to the NHL? It's not right for everybody.
No. And I think that the Flyers do have a little leeway in terms of, realism versus making these promises to these guys. But at the same time, the way that Danny Briere has communicated players' path and the player development process with the Flyers, like, they're not going to keep somebody at the NHL level who isn't ready.
I believe that.
I really believe that too.
At the moment, I believe that. We'll see what happens next year with Yevchenko. I may change my mind. I have the right to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we all do, but I think things have gone pretty accurately to that attitude in terms of player development. Now, we can criticize the player development as it's been all we want, but they've at least been generally realistic about where guys should be. We've disagreed with guys that didn't get a call-up opportunity, but I think that's a different problem than keeping people up, too soon.
That don't necessarily shouldn't be there. They're not quite ready. No, I get it. Yeah, like I said with Howard, if it's a situation where you're thinking about trading for his rights, then you talk to his advisor and you see. But if it's one of those situations where, let's say Danny is really honest and says, probably not this year, but you can play with the Phantoms, we probably can get you up at the end of the year, then his reaction will probably be, I'll talk to you August 15th. I'll be a free agent. You could pitch me then. That's the way I think it would go.
Yeah, if there's no team that gives him what he wants.
Instant NHL. Correct.
Yeah, this year. And I mean, I'm sure there's teams that could do it. Like Chicago could probably do it easily.
He might not want to go there.
I know. So
I think these college players have the power when this happens. And so it is your one chance as a young player to be a free agent, because you're not a free agent. Once you sign the ELC, it takes you a long time to become a free agent, and you're much older. Not that you're old, but you're much older. This is a different situation. This is your one chance of free agency. So even when lesser teams are telling you we could play right now, you've got to decide if that's best for you long term. You got to believe in their plan and believe that they're going to be good in a year or two.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about more of these guys coming up next. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, and each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling full longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety because I don't want to have to do all that shelling by myself, and it makes it the perfect grab and go snack for my busy days. Plus, I can have it at my desk while I'm working, and I have been reloading on the sea salt and vinegar no shells variety, which is my favorite flavor by far. It's so delicious and healthy too. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. These little green wonders pack a protein punch. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. On tomorrow's show, we are going to continue with some draft prospect profiles with Cole Reshny and Jacob East-Wozniak. Those are 2 guys that could be available at 22 or with the Oilers pick. Probably more likely the latter, but I think we're excited to talk about some of these deep first-round options for the Flyers. Continuing our look at some free agent / college players that are now available to the Flyers to take a look at. Justin Gill was a 2023 5th rounder for the Islanders, 6'1", 190. And he spent some time, Russ, with the ill-fated Bridgeport Islanders, as he was an Islanders draft pick this past season, got 35 games there, did play some games at the ECHL level as well in their affiliate there. And one of the reasons why he's interesting is that he just has such a strong background in the Q prior to that, and very high scoring. And we know that's a high scoring league. And obviously, with only 1 year under his belt in the AHL / ECHL, did they give up on him too soon? is the question.
I mean, I'm not going to say that because it's not like I've watched a lot of him, but I think that it's fair for another team to say, let's sign him to an AHL deal. Let's see what that AHL season looks like. Because the Islanders didn't really know what it looked like because the Bridgeport Islanders were a disaster. So let's see on a better team what he looks like. I think there might be something there, but I don't know. But I think it's worth a risk. It's not that it's a very low risk.
I mean, the book on him is that he has really good anticipation, a high hockey IQ, and he's really good away from the puck. And, I think that those are all appealing skills here. And I think that's with these guys that are all depth round picks or undrafted. I think that's the thing is like you give them AHL deals and see what they can do. And we have seen time and again where AHL guys who perform well earn those two-way contracts down the road and can be viable call-up options. And if this guy could get his scoring touch back, I think that could go a long way.
It could. I mean, literally, you step out on the ice for Bridgeport last year and you were, to take it the line from Jaromir Jagr, he was a minus before he ever hit the ice. So I don't even look at the plus minus. Forget that.
Right. Because that is definitely more of a team-based stat, of course. So, I think he's definitely one potential option there. And there is literally no harm in signing anybody to an AHL deal.
No.
And going from there. Another guy that could potentially, I think maybe in the right circumstances, have a stronger chance at getting a two-way contract is Chase Yoder. He was a Pens pick in 2020 in the 6th round. Now, his rights in theory would have expired in August, but that got moved up because he took the 5th-year option in college, playing at Providence. He had some national team development program time prior to his college career and was fairly successful there. And then, did those 5 years at Providence College, was the captain of that team the last 2 years. So strong leadership potential. He has some skill. His scoring dropped off his last year a little bit, only 10 points in 37 games. But again, given the leadership and the fact that he does have that skill set available to him, he's a little bit smaller, but not too small at 5'11".
Yeah, no, he's a pesky guy out there. And, he's a guy that could turn into like a fourth liner, possibly someday at the NHL, maybe just a depth guy, a call-up guy. But he's really good at penalty killing. And, when I chose his name, it was kind of like, could the Phantoms use a penalty killer like this? Yes. Yes, they could. He's got that ability. He can put up a little bit of offense. He's got good speed. He is a good leader. Like, he's never going to hurt your room. He's only going to help it. And you see what the hell he has. But I've seen him play enough where I'm like, I would get him just for the penalty kill.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And the Phantoms could certainly use that. And being good at a specialty job like that is the kind of thing that can earn you an NHL call-up at some point. So nothing to sneeze at there for Chase Yoder. And honestly, always fun to snake a Pittsburgh Penguins draft pick at some point in there. Now, a very intriguing guy, Jack Stockfish, who is undrafted. Played at a mid-tier school, College of the Holy Cross here for the last couple of years, but had some decent scoring with 25 points in 32 games 2 seasons ago. This past season, 27 points in 36 games here. The thing about him, he's a 6'4" center who's 22 years old. So he's young. And he's big, and you can never have too many of those guys, right?
No. And again, this is a guy who I have not watched much at all, just seen some clips. Didn't have the time to put in. But when I go to Instat, I see, all right, 27% defensive zone starts. That's good. He, didn't play against necessarily the hardest college teams, but he's still playing them. He was 54% on faceoffs, 49% on puck battles won. Probably could have a few more hits per game. Time on the ice, 18 minutes. Penalty kill, power play. He's not going to play power play. I'm pretty sure of that. But I would look at him because I think there could be something here. Again, he is just 22 and he's a big center. Like that's, those are two good things in his favor, besides certainly having some offense and certainly having some jam to his game.
Yeah, and I think, if you put him in the AHL and see if he can adjust, it's like, throw him in the deep end of the pool and see if he could swim. There's no harm in trying something like that out with a guy like him, given the size and the potential that is there. Is he fast? No. Could he figure out how to adjust his game to account for that? Probably.
Yeah, get guys like in the NHL. Paul Gaustad was never fast, but he had similar size. You give him a couple years in the AHL, he's 22 by 24. Who knows?
So those are three guys that we think could maybe be a benefit to the Flyers organization and bolster the Phantoms and give themselves opportunities to maybe earn something at the NHL level. We are going to turn our attention to our mailbag with lots of questions and comments related to our episode yesterday about trading up on the 50-year drought and so much more coming up next. All right, Russ, there were a lot of feelings about yesterday's show and should the Flyers attempt to trade up.
I knew there would be.
Yeah, with the San Jose Sharks to that 2 slot. Our thesis was that no, they should not. No. We would entertain and consider a deal, but that the margin of improvement you'd get from the 6th pick to the 2nd pick was not worth the cost. And that was ultimately the conclusion that we came to. And so Neil said, I don't think moving up from number 6 is the proper play. I'll somewhat parrot what Rachel said to me. Misa is a bit better than Hagens. Hagens a bit better than Denoye, and Denoye a bit better than Frondell. But the slight differences dictate you let the board play out. The smarter play is packaging 22, 40, and 45 to move up to 9 for Jackson Smith or Murka, which is an interesting thought.
Yeah, if Buffalo would do that. But I was just told yesterday by somebody that it's very unlikely Buffalo trades that pick. Now they're going to be having their control center over and where the Bills play. That's what they're picking, not their own setup. So
wild.
Yeah. So based on that, it would be kind of weird of an optic to set up all that and then trade your pick, right?
And
so
then
I don't
trade down. Yeah. No, those kind of things are very good indicators, right? That, unless they're going to try and trade up, that's the other option.
They could try and trade up, but to trade all the way down, I don't think that's a great optic when you made this proclamation like, hey, because the Bills are like a really good organization owned by the same owner, but the Sabres not so much. So I think they're probably trying to prop themselves up a bit.
Yeah. Moons of Jupiter commented related to the Islanders rumors, saying that they might trade down to 2 as the Sharks really want Schaefer and the Isles need scoring so that they could wind up with Misa plus additional picks or players.
Anything is possible. These things are being talked about. There's a huge game of liar's poker that just started and will go on for weeks. But again, with the Islanders, there is some prestige in having that first overall pick. I remember they've done it a few times. I remember each time they've done it, that is something you can market to your fans. Yes, number 2 is still great. And yes, you might get some assets. Do I expect them to trade that first overall pick? No. And Matthew Darch is already kind of hinting that he's probably not going to do it. So no GM in his right mind will ever close the door 100% because of what might come their way. But I don't think they're doing it.
I don't think so either. I think there's too much spectacle around having the first overall pick, and especially with a regime change, like it just does not seem likely to me. Right. But again, like you said, who knows? It's the draft. Anything can happen. We did an episode last week that talked a lot about the 50-year Stanley Cup drought for the Philadelphia Flyers, that they just passed the anniversary. of the last time the Flyers won the Cup in 1975. And Seamus commented, it's not just the 50-year drought, it's a culmination of things, the lack of superstars on our team. In those 50 years being number one, we've had exactly one, and he last played 25 years ago, and we had to trade the farm to get him. Also, he talked about bad draft luck in his further comment. And yeah, I think that's both of those things are correct.
It's valid. I would never invalidate what you're saying. I get the frustration. Like I said, I root for some losing teams. The NFL is one of them. So I know what this is like. And yes, you would like to see those things improve. Michkov, I'm not going to call him a superstar, but at least he's trending more towards that than anything else. So that's good. Yeah, sometimes these things take a long time because of different reasons, but I understand the thought process behind that and understand why fans feel that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I want nothing more than for the Flyers to be competitive and make a run
the
at
league
it
would like
every
it.
year.
It's good for the league.
It very much would be good for the league overall, but mostly for our sanity, I think.
My sanity's lost anyhow.
Timpo is 717 commented, the Flyers need to choose one of York or Drysdale and trade the other. There's no room in today's NHL for two small Ds in a team's top four. I would move York while teams might think he's still legit. There's nothing exciting or exceptional about his game. At least Drysdale flashes at times.
Well, then what's Emil Andre supposed to do? You're already saying he can only have one. He has no chance to make the team. No, listen, I understand the thought process behind that, but I am of the belief you can have more than one. I think you could have one on every pairing if those guys play the right way and add certain things to your team. I don't think it's ideal, but I think you can do it. So I don't think you have to trade one of them just for that. But I do think you might have to trade one of them anyhow. I mean, we've talked about it enough. We saw some improvement in Jamie's game. And if I'm going to trade one of the two, I'm going to trade Cam simply because he has more value now. And, he probably would not want to play the offside anymore, and that might help another team. So, yeah, if I was going to keep somebody, I would still keep Jamie because there's more upside there. Cam is close to a finished product, maybe not fully yet, but close. And so based on that, go for the higher value. But I don't think you have to do it just because of the size factor.
I think that's the right approach. I also think in some ways, given that this next year for the Flyers is the last sort of gimme year where you have time to figure stuff out before they need to be taking steps forward in a significant way. Like, you do have another year to evaluate them or to see if having a new coach changes what each of them can do in their role and how they're deployed, and all of that, I think, could increase the value of one or both of them. And I think the odds are there that at least one of them is going to do significantly.
Like, I'll give you an example. If Cam York's a part of like a sign and trade deal to Buffalo and Bowen Byram's in that deal, then yeah, I'm all for that. And it probably is good for Cam too. Matthias Samuelson's there. I'm sure he knows him well. Those kinds of things could be good for both teams. And then Buffalo gets cost certainty because they know what Cam's contract is. Yes, the Flyers would have to pay Bowen Byram a lot more, but there's more upside. It kind of works for everybody where they're at right now. So, and I think it would take more than that, just so people are clear. Byram's going to take more than that, but I think he would be the big part of that deal.
Yeah, that's kind of the only way I think you trade him now versus sign him to a cost-effective deal and then potentially have the ability to trade him down the road.
But definitely set his market price. Like, that's the first thing you've got to do. Do that before July 1st, because this way you know.
Yeah, and like we've been talking about, Danny Briere's been doing a very good job recently of setting market value.
I'm sure it's already, like, the one's done. I'm sure this is getting hammered now.
Yeah. Olsen Math commented they should draft Joshua Ravensbergen with their second first-round pick. Between him, Zabergen, and Bjarnason, we at least have a legitimate crop of potential. Then you can sign Alex Lyon to a 2-year deal to help Urson weather the storm. I don't think the Lyon thing is possible.
No,
for sure.
Like, we liked Alex Lyon, but I don't know if he loved his time at the Flyers the way
I
it
don't
had
know either.
finished up. So I'm not sure he wants to do that. And it's not like he doesn't want to be in Philly and he doesn't like, no, it's nothing like that. But if you go back to how he was used, it wasn't great. I like Ravensburger a lot. Would I do that? Sure. Like, it doesn't take much to talk me into that. Saying if he's on the board, I'll take him.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like somebody might pick him earlier. I just feel like the hype is enough, but I'm not saying no. If they pick him at 22, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too. Especially because you have another pick coming. Like, it's not your last pick in the first round. So it's like you can sort of do that. Even if you think Ravensburger will be there at your next pick, but you don't want to take the chance, then don't take the chance.
Right. And that's the scenario where I don't think they would trade one of those 3 picks to get different assets, is if they decide to pick him specifically. I think that's one of the high probability scenarios where they would use all 3 picks. Just to put a button on our nemesis of the week from the Monday show, Russ, you talked about not being able to get cranberry sauce at non-Thanksgiving times of year. I thought it was a little bit of a light nemesis. It's not something that would anger me.
You did. You were like, oh, come on, Russ.
I did say that, but you have defenders. And so I wanted to, I'm all for admitting when there's something out there that I'm just not aware of. So Amanda on Blue Sky had commented justice for cranberry sauce. Yes. And Olson Math, who we just talked about, says, I appreciate Russ's shout out for Capriati's. I'm getting one this Sunday, and I agree that cranberry sauce should be used year round. So you are vindicated, and I am
feel vindicated.
I'm a big enough person that I can admit that maybe there's something to it. So that will do it for today's show. We will be back tomorrow with some NHL draft prospect profiles and Cole Reshny and Jacob Wozniak. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts or draft prospects you want us to take a look at, let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. It's every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. We're finally getting a game tonight, so you can get local analysis on a national scale on NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.